The following program is a presentation of Mount Zion Media Ministries.
And the subject of the sermon today is the God factor. The God factor. Those of you that were here on last week know that the Lord visited us in a very special way. As I talked to my brother on last Sunday evening, he said, you had a Pentecost. And he said, we felt it in Newark. Because about the time what you described was happening, there was a shift in Abyssinian. And something jumped off, and we felt it. And some of us got free. We were liberated. The anointing of God set us free from some bondage that we've been in. And what you have already discovered is that when the Lord set you free on last Sunday, the devil got mad. Some friends of yours got mad. And by Sunday night, you began to doubt even yourself whether your freedom was real and whether or not it would last. And I've come to tell you that it can last, but it's going to take some effort on your part. Because again, the devil is mad. Your captor is angry. But you can maintain your freedom. And today's message is designed to help you do just that. Let me rehearse this story to you so you can have context for what's happening in Numbers 13 and 14. The children of Israel found themselves enslaved in Egypt. And for 400 years, they had been under the bondage of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was the title given to the king of Egypt. And one Pharaoh after another enslaved God's people. They prayed and they cried out to God. And then God made a decision to go and set them free. He sent Moses on his behalf to tell Pharaoh to let his people go. But because of their extensive bondage and because of their assimilation into the Egyptian culture, the Israelites had forgotten about the power of their own God. And so rather than instant delivery, God used an encounter with Pharaoh to prove to them his power. Pharaoh and Egypt worshiped several gods and they trusted in them. But God put every god that they had to the test through sending plagues that Egyptian gods proved powerless to stop. God demonstrated to his people that he had all power. But in spite of that, Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. And so finally God touched Pharaoh in a place God knew would break him. And this is what God said. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come through Egypt, and the firstborn in every house, both man and animal, I'm going to kill it, or him or her, except the houses of my people that got the blood sprinkled on the doorpost. And just like God said that night, there was weeping and wailing in Egypt because the firstborn in every Egyptian house, both human and animal, died. But every Israelite and even the Egyptians who took refuge in the house of Israelites, they were spared. And Pharaoh said, get out of Dodge. But God said, you know what? I'm not through yet. I still need to prove one more thing. So after Pharaoh let them go, God turned Pharaoh's heart and said, I want them back. I enjoyed their slavery too much. They benefited me too much. working free, serving free, cooking, cleaning, at my sexual pleasure when I got ready. Anything I needed, they had it. I don't think I want to let them go. But God said I need to prove something. And so as God led the children of Israel, didn't know where they were going, he gave them the first GPS system. He said at night, I'm going to put a pillar of fire in the sky. And you follow it. And by day, I'm going to give you another pillar of light. You just follow it. And as they were following, God said to Pharaoh, now you go after them. And Pharaoh sent his army. And the last showdown was at the Red Sea. The children of Israel thought they were in a bind. The Red Sea before them, mountains on both sides, and Pharaoh's army coming up from behind. God said, I got one more thing to show you. He said, Moses, tell those people who are crying out of fear to shut up and stand still and see God deliver. The salvation of God, God deliver. And the pillar of cloud that had been leading them by day and night, God sent it backward. And it settled over the Egyptian camp where the soldiers were and created darkness so they couldn't move. But that same pillar created light for Moses and the Israelites, because God said, I got something I want you to see. He said, Moses, raise your rod. And as Moses raised the rod, God caused the wind to blow all night long and created a dry place for them to walk across on dry ground. And after they got across, God moved that cloud so that the Egyptians could see that his prey had left. He tried to follow, and the Egyptian army, as they got in the sea, that same wind that had held the sea back, God said, now blow the other way. And Pharaoh's army got drowned. That's what the song said. It didn't say they drowned. It says, tell Mary not to weep. Tell Martha not to moan. Because Pharaoh's army got drowned in the sea. And so God did all of that to prove to them his power, to prove to them his ability to care for them. And he brought them out of bondage. But that was only half of the picture. Because if all God does is bring us out, then we're just left in a wilderness wandering. He brought them out to take them into the promised land. He brought them out to take them into. When God delivers us, he brings us out. But he also plans to take us in. And he needs our cooperation to take us in. Because if we don't go in, what we were delivered from will overtake us again. In fact, there's a passage in the book of Matthew chapter 12 where Jesus said, when a house, a person, has been cleansed of evil spirits, swept clean the house, and there's nothing else put in the house to replace the evil spirit, after wandering around that evil spirit, go find 7 more spirits, more evil than he is, and all 8 of them come back and occupy the house that was cleansed but left empty. And he said the latter state is worse than the first, which means you can relapse. And every time you relapse, the bondage gets stronger and stronger. And so God brought them out of all of that, proved his power. And now in chapter 13, they're at a place called Kadesh Barnea. They're at the county line of the promised land. If you will, they're in Mitchell County. They're in Bakerton. And God says the promised land is Dougherty County. And what I want you to do, Moses, is get 12 men, 1 leader from each tribe, send them across the county line to Dougherty County. Promised land. Stay with me. And let them spy the land out to see what it's like. to see what the people are like, to see what the city is like, to see what the land, whether it's fertile or whether it's barren, to see what the fruit, to see what the land is like, to see if it's flowing with milk and honey. Send them because I want to give you a preview of what I got set for you. I didn't bring you out to leave you where you are. And I want to give you a preview before I take you in of what is yours to have. But that human nature got in the way. So they went in, and for 40 days and 40 nights, the 12 men spied out the land. And on their way back, they got some fruit. They got grapes bigger than any grapes they had ever seen. So big that it took 2 men to put the grapes on the pole and carry it on their shoulders, because unlike the grapes we get in our hands, these grapes was too big to be carried by hand, which was proof that the land was fertile and luscious and flowing with milk and honey. And so in chapter 13, Moses calls all the people together. The spies get back, and Moses is excited, anticipating this wonderful report from the spies, and then all hell break loose. 10 men say, Moses, we went over there, and the land is everything that God said, but what God didn't make plain to us is there's some people over there. And they're big, they're giants, and they're too much for us. Their cities are fortified. Moses, we can't do a thing with those folk. We can't go over there. We just can't handle that. But Caleb and Joshua says, but we can. And the 10 says we can't. And then they take a vote, and the majority wins. And I've always told y'all, the majority not always right. That's why just because you want to vote doesn't make the vote right. Because God's mind is not determined in a vote. And so they voted, and the vote was wrong, and they decided not to go. And God got ticked off, and as a result of making God angry, they didn't go immediately into the promised land. Their entry was delayed for 40 years. They had been taken out of bondage, but didn't get to go. And don't miss this. It was 40 years later, and God said, during the 40 years you stuck out here, everybody 20 years and older who didn't believe me, y'all gonna die in the wilderness. And the children, your children will go in and possess it. And out of all of the grown folk who are here, only 2 will go in. And that's Caleb and Joshua, because they believed me. Now, I've been letting you look through a window at them, but let me tell you, I'm talking about you. And I'm talking about me. See, we've been in our Egyptian bondage, and God has brought us out, and God wants us to go into the promised land. And the question is, are we ready? Or are you going to be stuck and die wandering in the wilderness? The question is, can you sustain what God has done for you? God has delivered you, but can you continue to walk in it? Because I told you last Sunday, the key is, he said, if you keep my commandments and continue them, you are my disciples indeed. Wow. And so there are 3 things I want you to see about human nature that will cause you to go back and get trapped all over again, or allow some new trap to catch you. And so here it is. Now, if you've been asleep, wake up and write this down. Open your Bibles now. Verse 30, here we go. The first thing that I want to share with you, as you begin to walk in your new freedom, here is something that you need to guard against. And let me read it to you, then I'll tell you what it is. Verse 30, and Caleb stilled the people. And this after these folk made this negative report. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But, watch those buts, but the men that went up with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search, it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Let me tell you what just happened. The children of Israel, who were supposed to go into freedom in the promised land, they were not going to be able to make it because of this little, what do I want to call it? This little fault in our human nature. When faced with a challenge, they exaggerated the power of the challenge or the challenger. We're going to write that down. They exaggerated the power of the challenge or challenger they were facing. Listen at their language. They said that the land is right there. I just read it. They said, we went in there, and sure enough, it's a land, but they said that the land eat people up. That's not true. That is not true. After all, they made it back. It didn't swallow them up. But they said, ooh, the land eats you up. Look at verse 31. And they said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we are. They have even ascribed to these people power and strength beyond their own. How do they know that the people are stronger than them? Did they get into a weightlifting contest to see who could bench press the most? Did they have a wrestling contest? Did they have some kind of competition to prove who was the strongest? No, they looked at them and ascribed to them power greater than their own. Again, did the land actually eat people up? No, they looked at the land and ascribed out of their own fear power that the land did not have. And then they started talking about the people they saw over there and of great stature. And there was this tribe of Africans, sons of Anak. These were Africans who were very tall. And they saw them while they were over there. And they said, ooh, they so big. They so big. They said, in their eyes, speaking on behalf of these people, we are grasshoppers. Listen. Read between the lines. They went in, they spied. They didn't talk to anybody. They didn't have any conversations with the leaders. They were hiding the whole time, just making observation. So the people didn't tell them that they saw them as grasshoppers. That was their own mind, ascribing more power to their challenger than the challenger deserved. Check it out. They are giants, we are grasshoppers, so what? They can just step on us and destroy us. And while you may think that these children of Israel were just horrible and weak-minded for doing that, but hold up just a minute. We do the same thing. We exaggerate what our challenge is. You get a pink slip notifying you that you're going to be laid off. You go to pieces as if your job was your source. I don't know how I'm going to make it. I'm going to lose everything I got. And you just go to pieces. You get a diagnosis from the doctor, and the doctor says this, and then, and God forbid it's one of those, that we're afraid of. Then all of a sudden, we just worry ourselves to death because we've given power over a disease, and now we're living in fear. Somebody says something to you, they're going to do to you, get you. Somebody even had a nerve to tell you you can't make it without them, that you won't be anything without me. If you don't have me, you ain't going to be nothing. Excuse me? And you believe it? Because you give power. You work for somebody. You ought not work for folk you're scared of. Because you may be the boss, but I'm not going to give you that kind of power for me to be intimidated by you. And so, at least I tarry too long. What is it that you are facing? What's your challenge? Is it a class? Is it a person? Is it financial aid issues? Is it Valdosta State? What challenge are you facing? Don't exaggerate the power of your challenger over you. Is it the devil? Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Did the bondage God set you free from, was it some demonic spirit? Was it an addiction to drugs? You've been snorting, you've been hitting crack cocaine, you've been on pills, you've been on this. What's your challenge? Sex, you addicted to sex? What is it? Is George Clinton's song your national anthem? Nothing but the dog in me? Why? Why are you chasing the cat? Nothing but the dog in me? What is it? What is it? What is it? Don't give that thing. Don't give that person. Don't give it. Let me move on. Let me move on. Look at verse 33. Because not only did they exaggerate the power of their challenger, but they also underestimated their own ability. In verse 33, in chapter 13, you see again that's that verse that tells you what they think about themselves. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were, listen, and we were in our own eyes as grasshoppers. Listen, we saw ourselves as inadequate, as inferior, as nothing. And if you see yourself like that, you can forget winning. You can forget overcoming. You've exaggerated the power of the challenger, of the challenger, and now you're looking at yourself feeling like you don't measure up. Again, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? When I was a young fella, there were 3 people who lived in my neighborhood between my house and school, and I saw myself in their presence as a little wimp. And for several years, they intimidated me, but not only me, but a whole lot of other folk. A boy named Willie C. Thomas, another one named John Henry Burt, and don't y'all laugh, and a girl named Maxine Brown. Maxine whooped me one time. But I saw myself. And based on the way that I saw myself, when I met them and they said, give me the money, I just gave it up. But one day something happened in me, and I didn't see myself in the same light. And so when confronted by all 3 of them again, something changed. First of all, I realized because I saw myself different, they wasn't that big at all. Willie C. was about right here, and I was looking in John Henry's top of his head, and Maxine was a girl I didn't see as a girl before. And after that, all that bullying, all that taking my money, whipping me stopped. Not because they changed, but because I changed the way I see myself. Some of you taking some stuff, missing some opportunities, walking away from challenges because you don't see yourself as adequate to meet the challenge. But I'm here to tell you, change the way you see yourself. I don't see a grasshopper in here. And if you see one crawling, step on it, because we don't want any grasshoppers. Parents, start instilling in your children. I don't care where they go, who they come up against. Just like these cheerleaders came up here a moment ago, I don't care where the challenge is. Believe you can be number 1. And so turn to chapter 14. And so you got to watch underestimating your ability. You got to watch over exaggerating the ability of your challenger. And then here's the third one, and it is the allure of the past. That word allure means come on back. Hey, it wasn't that bad. Come on back. You don't really want to be over there. Come on back. So listen at these people as they talk. Verse 1 in chapter 14. And all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night, having a pity party. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, who are the leaders. And the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in the wilderness. The allure of the past. They are saying that we would have been better off dying in Egypt than having to face the challenge at Kadesh Barnea to go in the promised land. They are saying that death looks better than meeting the challenge for the future. Keep on reading, verse 3. And wherefore had the Lord brought us unto the land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey. Again, exaggerating. Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? And they said one to another, let us make a captain and let us return unto Egypt. They are now saying, the same folk who cried to be free, they are now saying, it's better for us to go back. Let's reject Moses and Aaron. Let's elect us a new leader and let him lead us back to Egypt and say to Pharaoh, we're back, make us slaves again. Pastor, that's so crazy, but hold up. Hold up. Don't move too quick. How many times you've been back? How many times I've been back? On the verge of going into the promised land. But the allure, you forget what was bad. And you start remembering what was good. And you go back to the good, only to discover that just like before, the good don't outweigh the bad. And the part of the allure of that bondage from the past is this: it ain't going to be like it was before. And it's true, it's going to be worse. And so watch and don't romanticize. Don't romanticize what you were in bondage to. Don't be in denial. Yeah. If you won't crack, you weren't just, casual. You won't crack. You couldn't stop when you got ready. And whatever else it is, if it had you control, you didn't have control over it. Now, those are the three things about our human nature. There's another piece here. I know you thought I forgot about it. And it's called the God factor. Go back to chapter 13, and then I'm coming back to 14 for a minute, and we'll be through. And so go back to chapter 13, and we get introduced to the God factor. In verse 30 again, chapter 13, and Caleb, who is believing what God has said, when God said, I'm going to take you into the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey, a land where you're going to have houses that you didn't build, a land where you're going to harvest crops that you didn't plant.
Dr. Simmons' entire message from today is available on DVD or CD. To order, call us at 229-432-6837 or visit our media page online at mtzionofalbany.org. Thanks for watching. Be blessed and continue walking in the light.